Hello, I'm doing a book review, and the book I want to review is The Running Man by Stephen King. Now, The Running Man was published in 1982, and this was originally published under Stephen King's pen name, Richard Bachman. Now, The Running Man is a dystopian novel, and it's very similar to another book by Stephen King called The Long Walk, which was also originally published under the Richard Bachman pseudonym. Now, the plot of The Running Man is it's set in the future. It's actually set in the year 2025, and in the future of this book, America, and possibly the whole world, is suffering a severe economic depression, and also everything in America is controlled by the media, but the media is completely controlled by the government, and in this book you find out that America is now under the control of an authoritarian government. And in this future, game shows are much more violent, and a contestant on a game show can actually get killed, but if a person does survive a game show, that person will get a lot of money. Now, the book follows a man named Ben Richards who can't find work, and his daughter is very sick, and his wife has even become a prostitute so they can get money to help their sick daughter, so Ben Richards decides to sign up to be on a game show, because once again, if a person survives a game show, that person would get a lot of money. So in the story, Ben Richards ends up getting picked out to be on this game show called The Running Man, which is the network's most popular show, and basically what The Running Man is you're treated like a fugitive, and you can go anywhere in the country, and you have to record like 2 videos a day and then send them to the network so they can put it on TV, and pretty much you're treated like a fugitive, and like the public are actually supposed to turn you in if they see you. So in the book, Ben Richards is now on the run from the police and these people called hunters, who are these hitmen who work for the network, who are going after him as well. And in the story, Ben Richards eventually ends up in this ghetto where he meets this guy named Bradley, whose younger sister is actually dying of lung cancer because of all the pollution that's in the atmosphere, and Ben Richards eventually finds out that the network is polluting the atmosphere and is not telling anybody about it, and basically all these game shows are pretty much to distract the American public from what's actually going on. So, in the story, Ben Richards tries to rebel against this whole system, and that's the basic plotline of The Running Man. Now, The Running Man is an excellent book, and this is definitely one of my favorite Stephen King books, and it's also one of my favorite dystopian novels. Like, if you're a fan of dystopian novels, then I would definitely recommend giving this book a read. Like, if you like books like George Orwell's 1984, or Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451, or Alan Moore's V for Vendetta, then I would definitely recommend this book. Also, if you liked Stephen King's other book, The Long Walk, then I would definitely recommend giving this book a read. Now, class systems is very much a theme within this book. Like, you realize that a lot of the people who sign up to be on these violent game shows are people from the poor communities, people from the lower class, and you realize the main reason a lot of these people are doing it is for the money, and I feel like class systems is very much a theme within this novel. And you also really get the idea that the reason the network is having all these people from the lower class get killed on these game shows is to kind of make an example of the lower class. Also, you realize that the network is doing everything in their power to get the American people to hate Ben Richards, and there's a part of this book where the executive producer of The Running Man, Dan Killian, tells Ben Richards that the reason all these people hate him so much is because he's from the lower class, because he's from the poorer communities, and he tells Ben Richards that he represents all the middle class's fears of the lower class. So in this book, there's a lot of social commentary on class systems and things like the rich versus the poor and stuff like that. The book is also very much a commentary on television and the media in general and how easily people can be manipulated by the media. And I actually find this book to be a very scary book in that regard because the media in real life is used to sway public opinion, and of course the media, I do think, for the most part, can be a good thing because really it's the media's job to keep the government in check, but in this book, the media is completely controlled by the government, and in a way, this is actually kind of scary today because you just look at like all these news networks and a lot of them really do kind of just suck up to certain politicians, and unfortunately a lot of politicians kind of suck up to corporations, and in a lot of ways I would say this book is almost more relevant today than it was when Stephen King wrote it back in the 80s. I think he wrote it back in the 80s, I'm actually not sure. Like, I know this was published in the 80s, but I'm not sure if he wrote it before then or not. But yeah, once again, The Running Man is an excellent book, and I also recommend this book even if you're not a Stephen King fan, but if you're a fan of dystopian novels, then I would definitely recommend giving this book a read. Now, I don't know why, but there were some aspects of this book that actually reminded me a little bit of Richard Matheson's I Am Legend, and I'm not really sure why, because both books are completely different, because this is a dystopian novel, and I Am Legend was also about a bleak future, but I Am Legend was actually a post-apocalyptic vampire novel, and this is not a post-apocalyptic novel, this is more of a dystopian novel, and also this book has nothing to do with vampires, but for some reason there were certain aspects of this that reminded me a little bit of I Am Legend. I think it was really the main character. For some reason, the character of Ben Richards from this book reminded me a little bit of the character of Robert Neville from Richard Matheson's I Am Legend, and it wouldn't surprise me if King got some inspiration for the character of Ben Richards from that character from the Matheson novel, because I know Stephen King was a huge Richard Matheson fan. Now, this book was made into a movie in 1987, and the film actually starred Arnold Schwarzenegger as the character of Ben Richards. Now, the movie could not be more different from the book. Like, the movie basically just took some of the same basic ideas of the book, but completely did its own thing with it. Now, I personally love the movie because the movie to me is a really fun, cheesy action film, but it does not do justice to the book at all. It's still a good movie on its own, but once again, it does not do justice to the book. I still enjoy the film, and I recommend the film, but once again, the film is completely different from the book. Also, the movie lost a lot of the social commentary that the book has. Now, personally, I would love to see them do another adaptation of this book, one that actually follows this book. But yeah, once again, that's my review on The Running Man by Stephen King, and bye.